Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Steve Chiama, and I'm the franchise owner for Action Coach here in Fairfax, Virginia. And I'm your host today of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have the pleasure to introduce Samuel Isaacson, the founder of Tikova, as my guest. Today we're going to talk about Samuel's business, his journey into business leadership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when shows like this drop. Samuel, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And if you would, please give us a little bit of background about who you are and tell us a little bit about your business.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. So a little bit of background. I am the founder of Tikova. I started the company 5 years ago. I've spent most of my career in the real estate world. I started out on the construction side, spent a little bit of time practicing law, then went back to business school, worked on Wall Street, again, but always touching real estate, and then had a couple stops at a couple of different real estate private equity firms. The last one being in Denver with Walker and Dunlop, and then started my own company 5 years ago. And our focus as a company, I guess the big picture mission is making sure that we're investing in a way that is improving the communities that we're investing in. Hence the meaning of Tikova. But overall, like we look at the U.S. Long term, we want to invest outside the U.S. as well. So we had some projects we were contemplating even in the Middle East before the Iran war situation started to unfold. But primarily in the U.S., our focus, and there are two kind of big themes that we invest in right now. One of them being necessity-based real estate, and the other one being experiential real estate. So those are the two investment themes that we invest in, and we have various kind of real estate strategies underlying those two themes.
Let's talk a little bit about that necessity-based real estate versus experiential real estate. Not everybody has familiarity with those specific terms.
Right.
What do those mean, and what kinds of people do those involve?
Yeah, so the necessity-based real estate is all of the basic human needs that everybody has. So, gas and convenience, you have, coffee, people go to quick service restaurants. There's automotive repair, childcare, healthcare, kind of all the daily basic necessities. Apartments would fall into that category as well, and other types of housing. So it's all of the essential kind of human kind of day-to-day living needs. We look at those sectors as more defensive over time, just in general. And so we like those sectors, and improving the lives of people at a kind of a daily necessity level is maybe not that exciting for a lot of people, but it touches a lot of people if we invest our dollars the right way. So that's our necessity-based focus. And by the way, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, the necessity-based focus and experiential. So some of what we're doing as well is trying to bring better experiences into the necessity-based world as well. So for example, one of our strategies is we have our own gas station convenience store brand that we've launched, and that's a necessity-based strategy. Despite the electric vehicle kind of momentum and the change in automobile industry that's unfolding, gas isn't going away, and nor is, even if gas does go away, the concept of having a kind of a bodega, in the different communities has been here for a long time and will be here for a long time into the future. But our store design and our entire vision in that strategy is to bring a very different customer experience to the different communities and make gas and convenience an actual destination versus something that I have to, dodge bullets when I run into the store.
Well, even if gas did disappear, you still got to recharge the battery on that car sooner or later. So
Right.
there needs to be a station along the way to do that. And if while you're sitting there, what are you going to do?
Well, people are always going to want to have their quick breakfast sandwich and their quick coffee
Hmm.
and and whatever else they get. Maybe they need
Hmm.
some quick financial services or something like that. But that's the idea, is that you bring a true kind of community store back to people that's exciting and interesting, and the real estate is attractive, and instead of a dumpy place.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Let's give our listeners a little bit of context about the business itself. Um, how is it structured in financials? And because you're in financials, this can have a little bit of overlap here. Um, are there partners? Are there outside investors? And I know there are outside investors for the projects themselves, but what about investing in the operations and growth of the business itself? How does the structure work in your particular case?
I mean, right now I'm the primary owner of the company. I mean,
Hmm.
we do have a lot of outside investors. I mean, real estate is an asset intensive
Hmm.
investment strategy, and so we do have a lot of outside investors. But I do, by design, try to kind of limit the amount of capital that's into the business itself. One,
Hmm.
because I don't want to give up ownership, and two, um, we don't need it, I guess, candidly.
Hmm.
If we are investing in the real estate the right way and doing the right things, we don't really need capital at a corporate level.
Very good. Do you have a long-term intention for that, or is there a long-term plan?
I mean, long term, I'd like to build, a family generational business. That's kind of
Hmm.
my long
Hmm.
term, goal, is to build something that I can leave to my children. That
Very good.
ultimately, I don't have any visions at this point of going public, or sailing off into the sunset. That's not really my motivation in life.
So Elon Musk is not your visionary.
Well, look, I mean, Elon Musk it has done a lot of interesting things that are very
Mm.
inspiring and can be very
Hmm.
inspiring to a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes the public route is what you need to access in order to really lift, especially companies of the mission size that he's trying to achieve.
Hmm.
So I'm not ruling it out if it aligns with the next step in our
Hmm.
growth, and we need that at some point in the future. But it's not a destination from a personal wealth accumulation standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Very good. Very good. All right, let's go back to the business of it. Who do you see as your customer? And I could visualize a couple of different answers to that. On one hand, you've got investors are a kind of customer. Um, how do you see customer, the word customer in your business?
It's an interesting question for the space I'm in, because on the one
Hmm.
hand, 100%, we have investors, and we are fiduciaries to them. But again, going back to our broader mission as a company, it's it's not just driving returns for our investors. We want to invest in projects that are also good for the communities that we're investing in.
Hmm.
We've spent a lot of time, we have domestic investors, we have foreign investors. Some of our foreign investors, which we've spent a lot of time kind of curating, these are sovereign families and different family offices around the world. They care about, for them, it's, I guess, taking a step back. It's not about, okay, I want to make a 15 or 25 or 30% return. Yes, investors want to make a return, but a lot of investors also want legacy. They also want to be recognized. They want, people to know, like that's a project I did, or
Hmm.
that's a project that XYZ, that's a project Saudi did, or that's a project that New Zealand did, right? That's the type of legacy a lot of investors want. So when we think about our customer, it's, yes, the investors, but also recognizing that we also have other stakeholders. Our investors also know that there's other stakeholders. And so there's other customers. If we're investing as a lender, which one of our strategies, we are a lender, our customer is also our borrower.
Hmm.
some of our strategies are where we are the developer. So then it's, the communities that we're investing in a way, they're our customer, and there's a lot of input that we get from the community. And then obviously, like in our gas and convenience store business, I mean, the customer is the daily customer that comes into the store. So it's multifaceted in terms of the customer, and we have to think about that every single day of making sure that we're maximizing the return to all of our customers. And then that, when I say return, that doesn't necessarily mean financial return.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's the value to the end user,
Correct.
um, so to speak. So when you're choosing a project, and I'm going to kind of I'm actually going to go at this, I suppose, a little bit differently. How do you go about choosing a project? Um, do you have a menu of projects in front of you, or is it you say, hey, I think there's a need over here?
The way we think about our strategies, like you can always find a good real estate deal,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really our approach. Our approach is is there an underlying theme? Because we don't want to do one good
Mm-hmm.
deal. We want to do 1,000 good deals of the
Mm-hmm.
same kind of stature, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we went into the gas and convenience store space, we were a lender on many deals first. We started to understand the dynamics in the market and understanding that 80% of the gas and convenience store inventory is obsolete. There's old tanks, outdated stores, outdated technology, very frustrated kind of American consumer with most convenience stores in most communities. And so then we started to say, okay, like is there a play here where we can actually invest long term and build a real institutional platform? And it's the same, like we have an entertainment strategy that we're looking at, and that whole strategy is focused on a little much bigger in terms of the project size, much bigger overall vision.
Mm-hmm.
That strategy is focused on bringing back to communities what the big box malls used to bring to communities, which was community gathering, social interaction, weekend fun, evening fun, constantly, right? And if you go to like foreign countries, especially in the Middle East or China, I mean, there are some malls in the U.S. that are still doing very, very well, like Galleria in Houston, maybe Tyson's Corner down where you are. But as a whole, the malls are dying, and they've been dying for 20 plus years. And
Mm-hmm.
Amazon's done a very good job in the retail space of shifting, the channels of retail. And so that, unfortunately has killed a lot of the malls. But nothing at scale has replaced what the malls used to bring to communities. And so we have an entertainment strategy that we believe is going to be even more successful than the mall experiment, that we're just starting to roll out. So those projects will range from $500 million on the low side to several $1 billion for a lot of them. And it's going into all the major markets, and it's mixed use entertainment, and some of them will be probably where the malls are today.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll just depend. But that is again, like, you could look at it and say, hey, I found a great mall we're going to buy and repurpose. Or you can say, is there a theme here that we can invest in and put a lot of capital to work, and there's a broader, bigger theme? And that's what we've kind of identified first. And once we really can defend the data, then we start saying, okay, now let's get micro and start picking our specific spots where we're going to actually execute.
So you're doing some really long-term thinking before you decide to go after a particular investment.
Very much so. I mean, we spent the entertainment. We still haven't closed on our first location. We've spent 3 years working on that strategy and developing the concept and IP, and there's a lot more to do. But we're already even been spending money even on some of the patents that we're going to have, because a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
part of the experience, and this is just a little bit kind of about our broader kind of thought process when we're looking at real estate. It's not just putting a bunch of lipstick on a building and making it
Mm-hmm.
look pretty. For us, the type of building technology is even part of our analysis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the what is the consumer picking up on energetically when they go into our projects. And so sound and smell and lighting, all of all of this, look, we're 70%, almost 70% water as humans. So we absorb everything that's around us. And we've looked at a lot of the data around this. And so spending the money to make sure that we're very intentional about all of the inputs that consumers receive when they go into our projects, even our gas stations, is part of our investment strategy. And some of that uh, technology or some of that evaluation has led us to focus on investing dollars in developing new building technologies or uncovering building technologies being used elsewhere around the globe, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Okay, that's awesome. You must be doing an amazing amount of, I'm going to use the word marketing. I don't think that's exactly the right word, but in a way, marketing to attract some really unique kinds of investors.
It has been a very, you use the right phrase, it takes a very kind of methodical and slow kind of curation process. And,
Hmm.
this isn't to knock any of the fund managers in the US, but we have found that a lot of traditional investors that are, call it some sort of PE shop that we're raising capital from, they don't understand a lot of the things that we're talking about. Not that they
Mm,
can't intellectually understand it. They're just like, all right, show me the deal. I want to see, am I getting a 25? Can I defend it? Blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
and that's all fine. But it look, if we take a step back as Americans and we look at our country and we look at what the investment dollars, the as a whole, have done in this country over the last 30 years, certainly over my lifetime, the country is in a worse spot than we were when I was first born in the 70s.
Hmm.
You look at the middle America, like it's horrible what's happened to this country. We've been hollowed out across the board. And there's nobody to, I'm not blaming anybody other than saying capital flows are what drive a country in terms of one direction or a different direction. You look at what China, if you go back to 1977 when I was born and you look at China and you look at the US, and then you say, okay, now we're in 2026. Let's see what capital flows have done to the two nations. I mean, you do a time lapse on that, that'll give you everything you need to know. So we think about things very differently and say, all right, we want to make sure we're investing in our country in a way that 40 years from now, people are going to go like, okay, these guys put money to work in a way that has had tremendous ripple effects through the community.
Hmm. Hmm. Capitalism with a conscience.
Correct. And with a long-term perspective and understanding that if I take a short-term view, it's a ripple effect across the board,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? Um,
yeah.
so
So the 20-year view instead of the 2 month view.
yes, yes. And again, like obviously investors need to make money and they need to make a return, but I would argue we've been very so short-sighted that now the returns and the approach and just the overall kind of um, investing um, philosophy in the U.S. has caused a lot of these cycles that we've lived through. I mean, 2008, the savings and loan crisis, and like all these boom bust cycles don't have to happen if we have a little bit of a different investment approach.
Very good, very good. What's one thing you wish more people knew about your business? Or do you?
I think we have to just continue to kind of spread the word, if you will.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we're still very much in growth mode, and
Hmm.
with growth comes there's a lot of operational challenges and refinement that is ongoing throughout our company. So I would say, we're still very much, very, very much in terms of in the early days of what I would like us to be when we grow up in terms of
Ah,
if that makes sense. So
oh, it does. Long-term vision is what that sounds like.
yeah, so there's definitely a big gap, I would say, between where I want to be and where we are today. And at the same time, I would say, we're going to continue to get better every single day. And We're going to continue to try to get in front of many people as we can to kind of talk about our vision and start to build momentum in our vision and our company.
I want to come back to that because I think there's something there that I think makes sense, but I want to touch on something more about you first because I think they're connected. Let's start with why did you decide to do this path initially? What was on your mind? What were you striving for?
You know, it's interesting. If going back 5, 6 years ago, probably more like 7 years ago, when I was in a good career, a good job. You know, my wife tells me all the time, why did we make this pivot? Because it's been a um, very much a roller coaster ride for her as a wife and as a mother, and
I'll
wanting to
bet.
have stability, right?
Hmm.
And I will say it started because of my own inner journey
Hmm.
and looking for some sort of meaning and purpose in life. Like, what am I
Hmm.
really doing with my life that's meaningful and that's
Hmm.
impactful?
Hmm.
And that has not come without a lot of ups and downs, I
Hmm.
guess. And some of those ups and downs, a lot of those ups and downs have manifested externally. And
Hmm.
it's taken me a lot of inner work to come to the realization that everything external is just my internal process and unfolding. But I mean, like, to become an authentic version of your true kind of self, non-egoic self, is filled with fear um, and that's probably the deepest one, right? Is fear and guilt and all the like lower vibration energies that are in the subconscious. If you want to talk
Hmm.
about Carl Jung and Freud and all these great minds that were trying to map out the human
Hmm.
psychology and consciousness, right? So that's really the work that started with initially when I was back at my prior firm was, all right, I need some leadership help. I need to get some Simon Sinek or some of these other guys to really like find my vision, find my purpose. And the deeper I went and the more books I read, candidly, the more confused I felt. Um, and it's like one leadership book would say this, and another leadership book would say that. And I was just like in this whipsaw, and I'm like, all right, today I'm going to start going down this guy's path. And then you realize, well, that's his path. That's not my path. It's still not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And nothing that there's anything wrong with what he's saying. It's just him, like I can't
Hmm.
walk in his shoes. I have my own shoes.
Oh, good observation. I like that. That's great.
And then, like as the deeper I would, the deeper I would dig, then my own insecurities would come up. So then I would start putting my own insecurities, and they come out as judgment of everyone else, right? So it's like this whole like gooey mess of digging internally till you get to a place of stillness and go like, okay, like this is who I am. I want to do something that's meaningful. Otherwise, I don't like. We're all going, under the ground at the end of our life, or into a furnace if we're, getting whatever cremated, whatever
Whichever one, yeah.
right. And like we came here with nothing, and we're leaving here with nothing. So
Right.
uh, I'm not motivated by piles of money, because it's like, okay, well, I can't take it with me anyway. Um,
Hmm.
so it's like it's not worth doing anything unless it's meaningful and impactful and in a
Hmm.
positive way, helping other people. Uh, and also only doing that out of your authentic self, because otherwise you're just ego driven and driven for power. And it's like, well, then what's the point of that? Because that's all going to
Yeah.
die as
Right.
well.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so going back to your question though, like as I started to dig deeper, that's when it just became very clear that the only way for me to actually be authentic was to start my own business. But then the question is like, what am I going to do?
Uh-huh.
Like what is, I know real estate, and at first I was ready to just throw everything away and kind of do a complete 180 and say, okay, like maybe everything I've done up to this point has just been completely wrong. But then, as I started to kind of settle into and work through some of my own inner fear and my own inner insecurity, I started to get to the realization that nothing happens in our lives by accident. So all the training and all the things that I had gone through, even though they were a lot of the things were being done in kind of an unconscious way, they were still leading me to the place where I was at that point. So putting a lot of those tools together is what helped me say, okay, like I'm going to start a real estate company. This is what I know. This is my education background. I can have an impact on communities. I like working with people and with real estate. It's tangible. It's real. And then, obviously, like none of the visions come up overnight, right? Like the ideas don't just appear all of a sudden just because you've created space in your world. You have to sit with the uncomfortableness for a while, and having the right mentorship is extremely important. And I can't give credit enough to some of the people that have been in the background on my path along the way.
Journey starts with a first step forward, and you never quite know where the second step's going to take you.
100%. And like, once you get comfortable taking a step forward in the face of fear, the next challenge I've had to overcome is taking a step forward in the face of doubt and going like, I still have to go. Like, because what are you going to do? Are you going to go backward? Am I going to go back and get a job and put my resume out?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the downside scenario if everything goes, collapses, but that's not the higher version of myself. That's not an option. It's just like, you just keep going, you keep fighting till life ends. You just keep taking a step forward, the best step every single day.
From that spot, I'm going to ask the question, what does the future look like? Knowing what you know now, where do you see this business in 5 years, in 10 years? Where do you see it going?
So I'll say it where ideally where I'd like it to be.
Exactly.
On we have the basically kind of three different strategies right now. We have more that we're going to add, but I think maybe instead of putting like actual flags in the ground on number of gas stations or number of entertainment centers opened, I'd rather say where I'd like Tikova to be in 10 years is to be recognized as a very different but very strong investment manager, investor, developer globally. And for people to kind of start to say like, oh, like they have a very different investment lens, but it's proven and it's working in a very, very successful way and touching a lot of people's lives in a positive way. And I want particularly as an American, I mean, I'm a very, very strong believer in our founding fathers. And despite all the drama and all the noise that we have in Washington today, as an American, I'm very proud to be an American, and I'm proud of our history. And I know our history is full of black marks, but it is who we are. It's and I think that we can bring something back to the American people if we invest the right way, where people start to see it. And investors then can start to also say, you know what, like this is really cool. Like we're making money, and people in the communities we're investing in, they love what we're doing. And I think that would be probably the most rewarding outcome in 10 years, for there to be a lot of talk about what Tikova is doing, what the investors that support Tikova are doing, and the people that we're impacting by the way we're investing, speaking very positively about what we're doing.
It sounds like what your real vision is isn't about Takova in itself. It sounds like your real vision is setting a standard of performance for investment in
Yes,
general.
it is. You
I
know,
love the
integrity, excellence, and look, um, we are all just stewards of, none of, we're just stewards of this, whatever's given to us in this world. We're meant to be stewards to expand it, is the way I see it. So if we're the right type of steward with 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 the capital that comes in and the light that we carry, we can use that to kind of make everything around us even better, and make the next generation have an even better life than we've had.
I love the way you put this, you framed this. You made the point where I would like it to be, as opposed to what happens along the way. Taking charge, taking ownership. Sounds like you are thinking of you're identifying yourself as the driver of the process as opposed to taking what comes.
Yes. Um, I mean, look, there's going to be a ton of. It's like a friend of mine, from business school. We met a few months ago in Miami. I'll give you a little side story just to explain the point. He's like, he was working on a big M&A deal, and he's like, I'm just trying to get to here. Like, I can see the destination. It's like 10 feet from here, but I have to like go to Mount Everest. Then I got to go down to you know, Peru. Then I got to go up to Alaska. And I literally just want to move 10 feet. So, like, I think that's kind of like I know that the journey most likely is going to be full of all kinds of detours and dry spouts and avalanches. And, you know, I always joke, like, some days are bricks, some days are mortar, some days you tear down the whole wall and you have to start building all over again. That's the way it is. And somehow, as a human and as a person, in those moments, you have to find the inner strength to pause, reset, gather your inner strength again, and then start walking again. Like, what else are you
Pick
gonna?
yourself up,
Right,
dust yourself off.
right. I mean, you can go into victimhood, and I can go get my bottle and go home and cry under a. But
Yeah, okay. So 10 minutes from now.
right. And look, but that's an option for everybody. And but like every successful person, you know I haven't lived other people's shoes that are successful, but I have to believe that every single successful person has gone through the same thing. I mean, just hearing Elon Musk talk about sleeping in his office under his conference table. I mean, that's that's like living like a homeless person. I'm not
Uh-huh.
saying it in a negative way, but clearly, like, even though he's successful and some people have a lot of negative things to say about him, but average the average person in the world is not carrying that sort of a burden. Going, this has to win. I'm going to be here till 4 in the morning, and then I
Yeah.
have to get up and do it all over again. I can't stop. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think anybody who wants to pick on Elon Musk, I mean, the first question I would ask is, what have you done that
Right.
compares to what he's done in terms of how many jobs has he created? How many
Yeah.
people has he and caused to be employed? And that's not just directly, but also indirectly with subcontractors and vendors and others. He's been an amazing impact
And
on
by the way,
people's lives.
the one thing that I will say that I fundamentally agree with at the core, because it's a teaching in our, just the way I grew up in our religious, I'm not a big religious person, but certainly in the kind of my background, the way I grew up, is the highest level of tzedakah in Judaism is not giving a man a fish. It's teaching him how to fish,
Yeah,
right?
bingo.
So
Yeah.
that, and Elon Musk's comment when they were criticizing him for not being a big donor in terms of giving away his wealth, his comment was, I've created millions of jobs. What are you talking about? And that to me is like the fundamental difference between socialism and true like lifting
Bingo.
up
Yeah.
societies by giving people real work that's inspiring and motivating. Because look, especially men, like as a man, I'm going to speak because I'm not a woman, so I can't speak, how women feel. But as a man, I would say most men, at least certainly people in my men in my circles, they don't want free money. They want a job. They want something to be proud of. They want to go to work and say,
They want to
I
build
built
something.
this. I built
Yeah.
something. I've created my future. I've built my home. I've done this. They want to be proud of what, they've created. And I think that's, I would say like, if we can have that kind of a legacy too, or we're lifting up communities, giving people good jobs, creating like an inspiration and excitement in these towns that have nothing to look forward to most of the time,
Mhm.
other than the drugs that come in from all places of the world, whether it's China or Mexico or in the U.S. where they're made, whatever, right? Um, giving people something exciting. People in this country need excitement. They need to be lifted up. They need something to like believe in again, right?
I love it. I love it. Very good. When I go back to the vision of what you're building, you have alluded to avalanches and quicksand and some other good things. What do you see
Right.
as your main challenges moving this needle?
Like me personally or the company.
Yeah. Well, the business.
The biggest challenge that we have right now is capital, and
Mm.
the this I want to say this in a way that isn't a victim statement. But the sad reality is that capital does not like to be leaders.
True.
So capital likes to follow other capital, and a lot of capital is following other capital in strategies that were yesterday's darlings. People are still chasing, for example, like data centers, right? There's billions and billions of dollars going into data centers. And my question continues to be, what happens when like the first computers were the size of a garage. Now
Hmm.
my phone is has more computing power than those original computers. And it's
Hmm.
hard. This may be an ignorant statement, but it's hard for me to believe that these data centers are not also going to go through a massive technology revolution over the next decade. And so I asked the capital, I'm going to continue to push the capital and say, what are we doing that's really transforming people's everyday lives? Because like, let's invest in something that's very different and very innovative and very transformative. And let's be bold again as Americans, like let's build projects that the rest of the world goes, oh man, like, and we, instead of us going like, oh man, look at what China did, or look at Saudi Arabia did, people around the world should be going like, look what America is doing. This is insane what they're doing. Where's that capital is my question. Where are those
Yeah.
bold investors to say, we're going to do something great again here in this country?
Yeah. Well, we want to talk about the effectiveness of our system versus other systems out there. You got to sit down and ask how many of them have developed the amount of innovations and advances in the last 100 years,
Mm-hmm.
as compared to this country. Um,
Right. And we don't want
and
to lose
it's,
that. We want to
yeah,
make sure that we continue to be the leader in the world, and like so that I would say is probably our biggest challenge is just and we just have to continue to be better at convincing the capital that there are much more exciting and interesting new types of real estate, new types of investment strategies to invest in that are going to be much better than last year's darlings. I guess is kind of the point.
the dot com bubble comes to
Right.
mind in that,
Right.
yeah, in that thought. Yeah, very good, very good. And this is amazing. This is fun. This has been some really great stuff. But in the interest of time, I think we ought to start wrapping up in some way. So let's hit a few rapid fire questions and see what we can
Sure.
do with those. What would you say has been your key to success?
I would say personally, the key to my success is kind of going back to, you know, I don't want to promote religion, but a lot of people don't, only understand spirituality through religion. But going back to just kind of basic foundational inner structure, like, okay, like I'm a person, this is myself, this is who I am, here's my strengths and weaknesses, and kind of resetting your relationship with God, and then structuring your inner self, like really becoming aware of your inner thinking, your inner beliefs, and challenging and observing your entire inner self, and developing. I've developed my own kind of inner, spiritual framework that I follow and I focus on. That I'm not It's not my development, I should say. I've kind of come back to a lot of the ancient teachings, and kind of getting realigned with old systems has been the most um, critical to my own inner growth and success and stability.
Yeah, well, those philosophies it didn't come about in a vacuum.
Right.
They had data in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, look, understanding, I think the biggest thing is understanding that there's a higher level of intelligence, call it God, the creator, whatever, that is the source of everything that exists in this physical reality, including ourselves. And so,
mhm.
however you want to do it, meaning other people, I think as humans, probably certainly for me, the most important thing has been to kind of realign with that energy to say, like, I need to make sure that I am receiving as much as I can in order to every day get up and every day, show up as a strong, steadfast, man.
Awesome. If you and I were having a conversation in a coffee shop, somebody walked in talking to his friend about a business he's been starting up. With your experience, what's one piece of advice you would want to share with him?
Probably the most important thing that I heard was stop reading books, stop reading like self-help and other
Hmm.
management, other leadership books,
Hmm.
and really, really dig deep to get to your authentic version, your authentic self. Like,
Hmm.
show up as your authentic self, and and then everything else will start to mirror that.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. With that thought in mind, is there one book you're reading now or have read recently that has had a positive contribution on where you're going today?
Um, I mean, I will say, like, the Torah has probably been the most, not probably, has definitely been the most impactful. But in terms of like non-religious books, one example I would give would be the Surrender Experiment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and not that I'm promoting that sort of methodology and meditation, but the thing that really resonated in that book and has resonated for me is that when you're in the quicksand, you need to still show up. And you just need to embrace it fully. And you need to
Hmm.
go, like, I'm in quicksand. I
Hmm.
have to show up here with stable, clear energy, and go, okay, like, I'm going to face this. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to say, poor me. I'm going to go, okay, this sucks and this is horrible. And I'm going to acknowledge what I'm feeling internally. And I'm going to say, okay, but I have to get out of the quicksand. So,
Have to fix this.
yes.
Yeah, awesome. That's, yeah, taking ownership and getting on with it. Yeah, very good. You've had a great journey. You've discovered much, both about yourself and about growing a business. What is the one piece you're most proud of at this point?
The thing that I would say I'm most grateful for is the clarity of direction and vision.
Hmm.
For many, many years in my prior firms, not just firm, but prior firms, there was probably a decade of my career where I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I just feel lost in life. I don't
Hmm.
know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why I'm doing this. But the clarity, even though the execution right now is still probably the biggest challenge, but the clarity of vision and clarity of like, all right, this is what we're going to do, has been a huge reward.
Awesome. That's very good. The clarity of direction is a really important tool in both peace of mind for yourself, but also structuring a team to help you get there.
Right.
Finding the people that share the same values and um, visions and goals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that you can better select partner? I'm going to say partners, meaning team, not financial partners. Do you find it easier to select people to take the journey with you with that kind of clarity?
It is easier. I will say, I do not feel that I have done the best job yet of articulating the vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's an unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
So the vision, we definitely are. I'm very clear on the vision, but articulating it first to investors and to the company, and then getting that into physical reality is obviously the next part of the journey and the challenge. But that being said, I will say, um, the team that I have now is very different than the team that I had when I first started the business.
Mm-hmm.
Is and the team continues to get stronger, continues to get better, and we will continue to get stronger and better as we evolve. Um, the biggest thing I think is looking for other people that are not driven by egoic kind of drives, but also still have, they also obviously everybody needs to make money. I get that. We all have to feed our families, but finding people that are A players and also driven by something, beyond just
Building something bigger than themselves.
correct.
Cool. Flipping the question around and thinking about the business from this perspective, if you had a magic wand and could significantly improve one aspect of your business, what would that be?
Couple things. One, first one being capital. Capital raising is difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yet, you see people like Elon Musk or there are some people that are just very, very talented at being able to get investors excited about what they're doing. And I don't feel like we fully have cracked that yet. So I would say that's probably number one, is to really, continue to kind of work on our delivery and how we're presenting our vision.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, like I've seen a lot of real estate deals and tons of different ideas, investment ideas over my career. And I'm obviously biased, but nobody has ideas like what we're envisioning. And I haven't even talked about, for example, like the project that we're thinking about in, some of these big entertainment projects, like one in DC in particular. But anyway, so that's number one. And then number two, with everything that AI, which we haven't even talked about, but AI is obviously, that's a whole nother conversation about the positives and negatives. But on the positive side, there is a incredible amount of operational efficiency that you can get into organizations with AI and system improvements. And that's that part of the business we haven't got to yet. And that's a part of the business that I really want to get solved. And I do think that probably the next phase of our business from an operational growth standpoint will be getting the right person that pulls in those AI tools and
Mm-hmm.
starts to feed that throughout the organization to really, really hone in on a lot of the operational efficiencies from, real-time data at the C-store level that feeds, a lot of that feedback loop and just ironing out a lot of the inefficiencies from systems and accounting and reporting, things like that.
Awesome. Most important question. How can people who want to know more get in touch with you?
I'm always available. I would say you can find me on LinkedIn or on our website. We I did write a book um, about some of my inner journey. It's probably not the most well-written book, but it was kind of my first, I guess, expression of the journey that I've gone through. That'll probably get refined over time as well, I would imagine,
What's
as I
what's the
find
title of the book?
the search for my soul and myself.
Very good. Awesome. Very good. Um, Last question. What's and I think you've alluded to this many times, but what's most inspiring to you today?
I would say the it's a it's a multi-layered question. There's aspects of my own inner journey that are even though very, very painful and difficult are super inspiring. And I will say the other piece is watching my children in terms of how they've evolved as I've evolved has probably been the most humbling and also the most inspiring.
Mm,
Just to see I think kids so many in so many aspects across the this country in particular, they take the brunt of the parents' shortcomings.
mhm,
They are reflections of us as parents, and I think a lot of times in society, and you hear it all the time in school, your kid's bad or your kid's misbehaving or this or that, and I don't want to tear up, but it you start to realize I've started to realize as a father, like everything comes back to us as parents. Like their misbehaving at school is something to do with their interaction at home or
mhm,
something, and to see like, wow, like if I make changes, if I become a little bit better father, all of a sudden my son softens and he's now kind to his sister. And it's just like
mhm,
to see some of that is very humbling and very, but also inspiring to go like, wow, okay, like we can actually change things in our lives and in our future. We don't, and that it makes it's you have to be careful not to become like self-deprecating in that realization as well. But full ownership and responsibility, I think, has probably been the most inspiring and also the most humbling of my entire journey.
I have a sense that you have latched on to a truth that many of us miss, and that is, and it's expressed in simple ways sometimes. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. And yes, what happened in the past, what you did in the past, the things that happened to you caused by other people in the past are all in the past.
Right.
And then you have the opportunity to make yourself become what you want.
100%. I mean, so one of the most inspirational physical journeys I took, I was in the Sacred Valley in Peru, and I forget the name of the town, but it's near Pisac. There was a little village, and in the village was a sculpture of one of the Incan kind of Indian, kind of looking native indigenous people there. And from the head down to the waist, it was like a man, but he had a hammer and a chisel in his hand. And from the waist down, he was still just a big block of rock. And the idea was that he's carving himself out of stone.
Mm.
And I think that that's at some point as a as an adult, at some point you cross the threshold where you no longer you no longer can blame your parents for anything.
Hmm.
And now you start to realize, like, there's an expiration date, and I want to leave this world the best version of myself, and I'm fully responsible from this point on till the end of my life of becoming the
Hmm.
best version of myself.
Hmm.
And the only way you can do that is and it's very hard, but you have to every day forget about what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Let go of yesterday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And let
Yeah.
go of what happened 40 years ago and 20 years ago and what this person did and this person did. Like, well, okay, like we are all made of mud and spirit, as one of my good friends says, who's from Saudi Arabia. So, do we want to be more like mud or do we want to be more like spirit?
There's a choice.
Yes.
The picture of that statue would be an amazing thing to have around in a common,
Yes.
in a visible place. That's amazing. I have never heard of that statue, but that
I'll
is
have
an
to, I
amazing
have it on my
image.
phone. I'll have to pull it up and send it to you.
Yeah, if you would, please do. That's an amazing image.
Yeah.
Um, it says there's a big message, and it says that we as a species have been struggling with this same question for a really long time.
Right. 100%.
This has been this is amazing. This has been a fantastic conversation. You've been vulnerable. You've shared some vulnerable things about yourself. This has been fantastic, and I really appreciate it. But embedded in there is some amazing insights of the journey we all of us have to go through, but business owners in particular, if they really want to build what they say they want to build, it starts inside. It doesn't start with the next sale. It starts with where's your head, where's your heart. That really is where it starts. So thank you very much for sharing that. For everybody watching, I encourage you to come back and watch this again. Samuel really did share some really great insights. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you can get notifications every time a new conversation like this one drops. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thank you to Samuel for being vulnerable and sharing his story in this way. I
Thank you
certainly
too.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
And there's
much.
the end.
It was great to be on.